Before you step into this Monday, pause for a moment. Before the demands of the day begin speaking to you, before the phone starts ringing, before the responsibilities start calling your name, I want you to recognize that you are standing at the threshold of a brand new day that God has already gone before you to prepare. You are not entering this day alone. You are not entering this day without direction. The God who woke you up this morning has already gone ahead of you, and there are doors he is preparing to open that no human being can shut. I want you to hear this with your spirit. This is not just another Monday. This is another opportunity to walk in divine alignment. There are moments when one conversation can change your direction, opportunity can change your future, one connection can shift your trajectory, and one door can introduce you to a season you could not have entered by your own strength. So before you start your day, we are going to place this entire day into the hands of God and declare that his favor will go before us. The word of God says in Psalm 5:12, "Surely, Lord, you bless the righteous. You surround them with your favor as with a shield." That means favor is not merely something you hope for. Favor can surround you. Favor can speak when you are not in the room. Favor can cause someone to remember your name. Favor can cause an opportunity to locate you. Favor can make a way where your own ability could not make a way. So wherever you are right now, I want you to lift your heart toward God and say, Father, go before me today. Ask him to order your steps, govern your decisions, guard your words, and guide your relationships. Ask him to close every door that would lead you away from his purpose and open every door that is connected to his will. You do not have to manipulate circumstances when you have surrendered your day to the one who controls circumstances. There may be something you have been praying about for weeks, months, or even years. You may have wondered when the answer would come. You may have faced rejection, delay, disappointment, or unexpected resistance. But I came to remind you this morning that delay does not mean denial, and a closed door does not mean God has forgotten you. Sometimes God closes one door because he is protecting you from what you cannot see while preparing you for what you have not yet imagined. Isaiah 45:2 declares, "I will go before you and will level the mountains. I will break down gates of bronze and cut through bars of iron." What a promise to carry into this day. God goes before you. He deals with obstacles before you encounter them. He knows what is waiting on the other side of today, and he has power over every barrier standing between you and his purpose for your life. So today we are not beginning with fear. We are beginning with faith. We are not beginning with anxiety about what could go wrong. We are beginning with confidence in the God who is already working. We are not going to allow yesterday's disappointment to become today's expectation. We are not going to let one rejection convince us that every door is closed. We are going to believe that God still has access to places we cannot access, relationships we cannot create, opportunities we cannot manufacture, and blessings we cannot produce in our own strength. And I want you to pray specifically for divine favor over your work, your business, your family, your finances, your relationships, your decisions, and your assignments. Say, Lord, let your favor rest upon everything I touch today. Give me wisdom to recognize the right opportunity and discernment to reject the wrong one. Connect me with the right people. Separate me from relationships that are designed to drain, distract, or destroy my purpose. Proverbs 3:5-6 tells us to trust in the Lord with all our heart and not lean on our own understanding, and that when we acknowledge him, he will direct our paths. That is our posture today. We don't need to know every detail before we obey. We don't need to understand every step before we move. We need to trust the one who sees the beginning, the middle, and the end all at once. There are doors that will open because you prayed. There are conversations that will go differently because you prayed. There are decisions you will make with greater wisdom because you prayed. There are traps you will avoid because you prayed. There are opportunities you will recognize because you prayed. Never underestimate what happens when you dedicate the first moments of your day to God and invite him into every area of your life. If this prayer is speaking to your heart, like the video and subscribe to the channel for daily prayer as a prophetic act of faith. Don't just watch passively, participate in faith. Let your agreement become your declaration that you believe God is able to lead you, favor you, protect you, and open the doors that are connected to his purpose for your life. And I want you to make this declaration in the comments. Lord, open the right doors for me today. Write it by faith. Let those words become your personal declaration as you begin this Monday, believing that God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that you can ask or imagine. Father, as we enter this new day, we surrender our plans, our expectations, our concerns, and our desires to you. Go before every person listening right now. Make crooked places straight. Remove unnecessary obstacles. Give them favor where they need favor, wisdom where they need wisdom, courage where they need courage, and peace where they need peace. Let doors open that no person can shut, and let every wrong door remain closed by your divine protection. Today, we declare that we will not walk ahead of God, and we will not lag behind his instruction. We will walk in step with his spirit. We will recognize divine appointments. We will hear the right voice. We will make the right decisions. We will have the courage to move when God says move, and the wisdom to wait when God says wait. Let this Monday become a day of divine alignment, unexpected favor, supernatural provision, and new opportunities. So before you start your day, remember this: God is already there. Before you make the call, he is there. Before you enter the meeting, he is there. Before you face the challenge, he is there. Before you encounter the opportunity, he is there. And if God is before you, you can face this day with confidence, because the one who called you has not abandoned you. The one who promised you is faithful, and the one who goes before you is able to make a way where there seems to be no way. Before you step into this day, before you allow the noise of the world to tell you what this day must become, take a moment and surrender it to God. There is power in beginning your morning by acknowledging that you are not your own source, your own protection, your own wisdom, or your own provider. You may have plans for this Monday. You may have responsibilities waiting for you, people expecting something from you, decisions that need to be made, and situations that require your attention. But before you carry all of those things, give them to the one who already knows the end from the beginning. Proverbs 16:3 says, "Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans." When you commit your plans to God, you are not abandoning responsibility. You are placing your responsibility under divine direction. There is a difference between making plans and surrendering your plans. You can plan, prepare, work, study, build, create, pursue, and dream, but surrender means you are willing to allow God to redirect you when your way is not his way. Sometimes the answer to your prayer is not simply that God gives you what you requested. Sometimes the answer is that he changes your direction. Sometimes he delays something because he sees what you cannot see. Sometimes he closes an opportunity because he knows the consequences hidden behind it. Sometimes he interrupts your schedule because there is something more important waiting in the place you did not expect to go. Proverbs 3:5-6 tells us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." This is the posture we need as we begin this day. You do not have to know everything that will happen today in order to walk into today with confidence. You only need to know the one who holds today in his hands. You may not know who will call you, what conversation you will have, what opportunity will appear, what challenge may arise, or what unexpected situation may demand your attention, but God already knows. Before you encounter it, he knows it. Before you arrive there, he is already there. Before you face the problem, he already knows the solution. Before the door appears, he knows whether you should walk through it. This is why surrender is not weakness. Surrender is confidence in a wisdom greater than your own. But Psalm 37:5 says, "Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in him, and he will do this." Commit your way, not only your destination, but your way. Give God your methods, your timing, your relationships, your decisions, your ambitions, and your expectations. Say, "Father, I want what you want for me more than I want what I have planned for myself." That prayer requires maturity because sometimes we become attached to outcomes. We decide exactly how we want God to answer, exactly when we want him to answer, and exactly through whom we want the answer to come. But faith says, "Lord, I trust your answer even when it does not look like my expectation." Faith says, "Your wisdom is better than my preference." Faith says, "Your timing is better than my urgency." Maybe you woke up this morning carrying a decision that has been troubling you. Perhaps you have been asking God, "Which way should I go?" Maybe two opportunities are before you, and you do not know which one is right. Maybe you are considering a career decision, a business decision, a financial decision, a relationship decision, or a family decision. Before you allow pressure to force you into movement, pause and invite God into the decision. James 1-5 says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault." You are allowed to ask for wisdom. You do not have to pretend that you have every answer. You do not have to move simply because everyone around you is moving. You can wait for divine clarity. There are moments when God will lead you through peace, and there are moments when He will lead you through conviction, scripture, wise counsel, circumstances, and spiritual discernment. That is why your relationship with God must be deeper than simply asking Him to bless your plans. We must learn to ask Him to shape our plans. We must learn to say, "Lord, if this is not for me, remove my desire for it. If this is not the door, give me the courage to walk away. If this relationship is not aligned with your purpose, give me discernment. If this opportunity is from you, give me grace to recognize it and courage to step into it." When you pray like this, you are no longer asking God merely to follow you. You are asking Him to lead you. Psalm 32-8 gives us this beautiful promise. "I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you." Think about that. God does not simply give direction from a distance. He promises instruction, teaching, and counsel. You are not navigating this life without divine guidance. You may sometimes feel uncertain, but uncertainty does not mean God is absent. There may be seasons when the next step is not visible until you take the step of faith that is already clear. God often gives enough light for the next step without revealing the entire journey. So surrender your expectations this morning. If you expected a certain person to help you, surrender it. If you expected a certain opportunity to come through, surrender it. If you expected a particular door to open by now, surrender it. If you have been trying to control how everything unfolds, surrender it. Your future does not depend entirely upon your ability to control circumstances. Your future is held by God. Psalm 55-22 says, "Cast your cares on the Lord, and He will sustain you. He will never let the righteous be shaken." You can release what has been weighing on your heart because God is able to sustain you even when you cannot see how everything will work out. There is also something powerful that happens when you surrender your emotions to God. Do not allow fear to become the voice directing your decisions. Do not allow anxiety to convince you that you must solve everything before breakfast. Do not allow yesterday's disappointment to become today's prophecy. You may have experienced failure yesterday, but yesterday does not own today. You may have been rejected before, but rejection does not have the authority to define your future. You may have made mistakes, but your mistakes do not cancel God's ability to lead you into a new season. Lamentations 3:22-23 reminds us that God's mercies are new every morning and that His faithfulness is great. Every morning carries fresh mercy. Surrender also means giving God your schedule. There may be things you plan to accomplish today that will not happen exactly as expected. Instead of becoming frustrated when your schedule changes, learn to ask, "Lord, what are you doing in this interruption?" Sometimes an interruption is an inconvenience, and sometimes an interruption is an assignment. Sometimes the delay that irritates you is the very thing that protects you. Sometimes being unable to reach one destination causes you to encounter a person who needed your encouragement. Sometimes a changed schedule creates an opportunity that was never on your calendar, but was already on God's calendar. Proverbs 19:21 says, "Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails." This is why we begin the day with prayer. Prayer is not simply asking God to make our lives easier. Prayer is bringing our lives into alignment with Him. Prayer changes the posture of the heart. Prayer reminds us that we are not alone. Prayer gives us courage when circumstances are uncertain. Prayer gives us wisdom when choices are difficult. Prayer gives us peace when answers have not yet arrived. Philippians 4-6-7 tells us not to be anxious about anything, but to bring everything to God in prayer and thanksgiving, and that the peace of God will guard our hearts and minds. That is what we need as we step into this day. So this morning, take your hands off what you have been trying to control and place it into God's hands. Give Him your family, give Him your career, give Him your business, give Him your finances, give Him your health and well-being, give Him your relationships, give Him your dreams, give Him your disappointments, give Him the questions you cannot answer, Give him the doors you want opened and the doors you are afraid might close. Say, Father, I surrender my day to you. I surrender my plans to you. I surrender my desires to you. I surrender my timing to you. I surrender my expectations to you. Lead me where you want me to go. Keep me from what you know is not for me. And position me where your purpose can be fulfilled in my life. And as you walk through this Monday, do not be surprised if God begins to redirect your steps. Do not resist every change simply because it was not part of your original plan. Stay sensitive. Stay prayerful, stay teachable, stay attentive to the word. Let the Holy Spirit guide your decisions. Isaiah 30-21 says, whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it. May your heart become sensitive enough to recognize that direction, humble enough to follow it, and courageous enough to obey it when the path God chooses is different from the path you originally planned. And before you move into the responsibilities of this day, remember that surrender does not mean you stop believing for great things. Surrender means you trust God enough to believe that his version of great is better than yours. You can still believe for open doors. You can still expect favor. You can still pursue excellence. You can still pray for provision, breakthrough, restoration, and opportunity. But now you pursue these things with an open heart, saying, Lord, let your will be done in my life. Matthew 6:33 reminds us to seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, trusting that the things we need will be provided according to his wisdom and purpose. So step into this day with your heart surrendered and your spirit expectant. You do not need to force what God has ordained. You do not need to manipulate people to create what God can establish. You do not need to chase every opportunity simply because it looks attractive. You do not need to panic when something does not happen according to your timetable. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust him with the details. Let him order your steps. Let him close what needs to be closed. Let him open what needs to be opened. Let him remove what needs to be removed. Let him establish what needs to be established. And as you surrender this day into his hands, may your decisions become wiser, your heart become steadier, your discernment become sharper, and your steps become increasingly aligned with the purpose he has prepared for you. As you begin this day, I want you to understand that divine favor is not merely about receiving something you could never have earned. Divine favor is the gracious hand of God upon your life, giving you access, wisdom, strength, opportunities, relationships, protection, and influence according to his purpose. There are moments when your qualifications will be enough, your experience will be enough, your preparation will be enough. And there are moments when you will come to the realization that what you need cannot be produced by human ability alone. You need grace. You need God to go before you. You need God to make what is difficult become possible, to make what is complicated become clear, and to cause the right opportunities to locate you at the right time. Psalm 5:12 declares, surely, Lord, you bless the righteous. You surround them with your favor as with a shield. Notice that favor surrounds you. It is not limited to one isolated area of your life. God can place his favor over your work, your business, your family, your finances, your relationships, your decisions, your ministry, your education, your conversations, and your future. Favor can become a shield around what God has entrusted to you. So as you begin this Monday, do not only pray, Lord, give me something. Pray, Lord, let your favor surround me. Let your grace go before me. Let your wisdom guide me. Let your presence distinguish me. There are things you may have tried to accomplish through effort alone, and perhaps you have become exhausted because you have been trying to force outcomes. But there comes a point when you must understand that striving is not the same as faith. Faith does not mean that you stop working. Faith means that you stop believing that everything depends on your ability to control the outcome. You prepare, but God establishes. You work, but God gives increase. You knock, but God determines which door opens. You move faithfully, but you trust him with what happens beyond your control. Proverbs 16:3 says, commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. I want you to pray over your work today. Whether you are employed, self-employed, building a business, looking for a job, studying, creating, managing a home, serving others, or developing a skill, ask God to establish the work of your hands. Psalm 90:17 says, may the favor of the Lord our God rest on us. Establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. You can labor faithfully and still ask God to establish the results. You can prepare diligently and still ask Him to breathe upon what you are doing. You can pursue excellence while recognizing that God is the one who ultimately causes your efforts to produce lasting fruit. Do not underestimate the power of excellence. Sometimes people pray for favor while neglecting preparation. But favor does not cancel responsibility. Joseph had favor, but Joseph also demonstrated wisdom, discipline, administration, and integrity. Daniel had favor, but Daniel also developed excellence. Proverbs 22:29 says, "Do you see someone skilled in their work? They will serve before kings." Your preparation matters. Your character matters. Your attitude matters. Your consistency matters. God can open the door, but you must be prepared to steward what is on the other side of the door. Pray over your finances this morning. Ask God to give you wisdom to manage what you have while believing Him for increase. Deuteronomy 8:18 says, "Remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth." Your ability to think, create, work, solve problems, communicate, organize, build, serve, and lead can become part of the channel through which provision comes. Ask God to sharpen those abilities. Ask Him to reveal opportunities that are legitimate, wise, and aligned with your values. Ask Him to protect you from dishonest schemes, impulsive decisions, unnecessary debt, and opportunities that look profitable but carry destructive consequences. Maybe you are entering this Monday with financial pressure. Perhaps bills are waiting. Perhaps you are trying to recover from a difficult season. Perhaps you are believing for a new source of income. Do not let financial pressure convince you that you have to compromise your integrity. Proverbs 10:22 says, "The blessing of the Lord brings wealth without painful toil for it." Continue to work, continue to learn, continue to prepare, continue to seek legitimate opportunities, but refuse to allow desperation to make your decisions. God can provide without requiring you to destroy your peace or compromise your convictions. Pray over your relationships. Ask God to give you favor with the people you encounter, but also ask Him for discernment concerning the people you allow close to you. Some relationships will strengthen your purpose. Some will challenge you to grow. Some will introduce you to opportunities. Some will teach you wisdom. But some relationships can become distractions from the assignment God has given you. Proverbs 13:20 says, "Walk with the wise and become wise." Your environment matters. The voices around you matter. The people you consistently listen to matter. Sometimes divine favor means that God causes people to recognize what He has placed inside you. Esther experienced favor at a critical moment. Esther 2:17 says, "The king was attracted to Esther more than to any of the other women, and she won his favor and approval." Esther did not know every detail of what was ahead, but God positioned her where her influence would eventually become necessary for the preservation of her people. This teaches us that favor is not always about personal comfort. Sometimes God gives you favor because there is an assignment attached to your position. Your elevation may become someone else's deliverance. Joseph also experienced this kind of favor. Genesis 39:2 says, "The Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered." Joseph's circumstances were not always favorable, but God's presence remained with him. He moved from one environment to another, yet the hand of God remained upon him. That should encourage you because you cannot measure divine favor only by how comfortable your current environment is. You can be in a difficult season and still be favored. You can be misunderstood and still be favored. You can be delayed and still be favored. You can be overlooked and still be favored. Sometimes favor looks like an open door, and sometimes favor looks like a closed door. Sometimes favor is the opportunity you receive, and sometimes favor is the opportunity God prevents you from receiving. Sometimes favor is the person who enters your life, and sometimes favor is the relationship God removes. Sometimes favor is acceleration, and sometimes favor is divine delay. Isaiah 55:8-9 reminds us that God's thoughts and ways are higher than ours. You may not understand why something did not work, but you can trust that God sees what you cannot see. Do not compare your favor with someone else's journey. Another person's promotion is not proof that God has forgotten you. Another person's breakthrough is not evidence that your breakthrough will never come. Another person's timeline is not your prophetic calendar. Galatians 6-4 teaches us to examine our own work rather than measuring ourselves against others. Stay faithful to your assignment. Stay faithful to your preparation. Stay faithful to your prayer life. Stay faithful to your values. You do not have to become someone else to receive what God has prepared for you. I declare that as you enter this day, God's favor will rest upon your work. May He give you favor with supervisors, clients, customers, colleagues, partners, teachers, decision makers, and people who have the ability to recognize your gifts. May your work speak with excellence. May your integrity protect your reputation. May your consistency create credibility. May your preparation meet opportunity when opportunity arrives. May God bring the right people into your path and give you discernment concerning those who should not have access to your future. Proverbs 16:7 says, "When the Lord takes pleasure in anyone's way, He causes their enemies to make peace with them." May God bring peace where there has been unnecessary conflict. May He settle situations you cannot settle through human arguments. May He give you wisdom when you must confront difficult circumstances. May He give you grace to remain composed when others are attempting to provoke you. May He teach you when to speak and when silence is more powerful. May He protect you from wasting energy fighting battles that He never assigned to you. And when favor comes, remain humble. Do not allow an open door to make you forget the God who opened it. Do not allow success to become an idol. Do not allow influence to become pride. Do not allow increase to make you independent from prayer. Deuteronomy 8:11 warns us not to forget the Lord when we prosper. Remember the source. Remember the one who gave you the ability. Remember the one who sustained you when nobody else could see the process. Remember the one who kept you through the season when you had more questions than answers. So walk into this Monday with expectation. Expect God to give you wisdom. Expect Him to provide opportunities. Expect Him to protect you from wrong opportunities. Expect Him to connect you with the right people. Expect Him to establish the work of your hands. Expect Him to surround you with favor as with a shield. But remain surrendered enough to say, Lord, not merely the door I want, but the door you have ordained. Not merely the opportunity that looks attractive, but the opportunity that aligns with your purpose. Not merely the relationship that makes me comfortable, but the relationships that help me become who you have called me to become. There are seasons when you pray for a door to open and instead you encounter another delay. You make the application and receive no response. You make the call and nobody answers. You pursue the opportunity and someone else gets selected. You believe for change and yet the circumstances appear unchanged. In moments like these, it is easy to interpret delay as rejection and rejection as abandonment. But I want you to hear this clearly. A closed door does not mean that God has closed your future. A delay does not mean that your destiny has been canceled. Sometimes what looks like a setback is actually divine redirection. Isaiah 43:19 says, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it?" God is capable of doing something new even when your current circumstances seem repetitive. You may have seen the same struggle for months, but that does not mean the same struggle will define the next season. You may have encountered rejection repeatedly, but rejection does not have the authority to write the final sentence over your life. God can create a new pathway, introduce a new opportunity, and reveal a new strategy that you could not have discovered through your previous approach. Joseph's story teaches us that delay can be part of preparation. He received a dream, but the fulfillment of that dream did not happen immediately. Between the promise and the position were betrayal, slavery, false accusation, and imprisonment. Yet Genesis 50:20 records Joseph saying, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." What people intended as destruction did not have the final word. God was working through circumstances Joseph could not understand at the time. Maybe you have experienced rejection that wounded you deeply. Someone told you no. Someone overlooked you. Someone chose another person. Someone did not recognize your value. Someone walked away. Someone refused to give you the opportunity you believed you deserved. Rejection can speak loudly to the emotions, but rejection is not identity. Your worth does not rise and fall according to another person's decision. Psalm 139:14 reminds you that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Your value comes from God, not from human approval. There is a danger in allowing one rejection to become a pattern of expectation. After enough disappointments, the heart begins to protect itself by expecting the worst. You stop applying because you assume you will be rejected. You stop trying because you assume it will fail. You stop believing because you are afraid of being disappointed again. But faith calls you to refuse the conclusion that yesterday's outcome must become tomorrow's outcome. 2 Corinthians 5-7 says, "For we live by faith, not by sight." What you see today is not necessarily the full picture of what God is doing. Sometimes God uses rejection to redirect you towards something better suited to your purpose. Paul and his companions experienced this kind of redirection in Acts 16-6-7 when they were prevented from entering certain regions. The closed pathway was not the end of their ministry. It redirected them toward another assignment. This is a powerful principle. Sometimes God says no to the route because he has another route. Sometimes the closed door is not punishment. It is guidance. Ask God to heal you from the need to force doors open. You do not have to convince everyone to recognize you. You do not have to beg someone to value you. You do not have to manipulate circumstances to prove that you belong somewhere. Revelation 3-8 says, "See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut." If God establishes a door, you do not have to manipulate people to maintain it. Your responsibility is to prepare, pray, obey, and walk when he gives direction. That does not mean you should become passive. There is a difference between trusting God and refusing to act. Nehemiah prayed, but he also rebuilt. David trusted God, but he also prepared. Esther prayed, but she also approached the king. Faith requires movement when God gives instruction. If you have been rejected from one opportunity, do not let that stop you from preparing for the next. Improve your skills, strengthen your character, learn from what happened. Seek wise counsel. Refine your strategy. Keep moving with wisdom. Proverbs 24-16 says, "Though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again." Falling is not the same as finishing. Failure is not final. A setback is not a sentence. You may stumble, but you can rise. You may lose an opportunity, but you can learn. You may experience disappointment, but you can heal. You may have to change direction, but you can still arrive at the place God has prepared for you. There are times when God allows you to experience disappointment because he is teaching you to depend on him rather than outcomes. If every prayer were answered exactly according to your preference, you might begin to worship the answer instead of trusting the answerer. Sometimes God is developing your faith in the waiting. James 1-2-4 teaches that trials can produce perseverance and maturity. The process may be uncomfortable, but God can use it to develop qualities you will need in the next season. I want you to release the bitterness of old rejection. Do not carry yesterday's no into today's opportunity. Do not punish new people for what previous people did. Do not assume every relationship will end the same way. Do not assume every employer will overlook you. Do not assume every business opportunity will fail. Do not assume every prayer will remain unanswered. Isaiah 43-18 says, "Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past." There is something new God can do when you stop allowing the past to dictate your expectation of the future. If a door closes, ask God what you are supposed to learn. Did you need more preparation? Did you need a different strategy? Was the opportunity misaligned with your values? Was the timing wrong? Was God protecting you? Was there another path you had not considered? Questions like these turn disappointment into wisdom. Instead of simply saying, "Why did this happen to me?" ask, "Lord, what are you teaching me through this?" That question can transform the way you process difficult seasons. There are also doors you need to stop knocking on. Not every closed door needs to be reopened. Sometimes we exhaust ourselves trying to revive what God has already ended. We keep returning to relationships that continually damage us. We keep pursuing opportunities that repeatedly compromise our peace. We keep trying to convince people who have already decided not to recognize us. There comes a moment when faith means releasing the door and trusting God for another one. Ecclesiastes 3-6 speaks of a time to search and a time to give up. God can replace what you lost. Joel 2:25 says, "I will repay you for the years the locusts have eaten." Restoration may not always look exactly like replacement, but God is able to redeem seasons that seemed wasted. He can use what you learned in a difficult chapter to prepare you for a better chapter. He can turn scars into wisdom. He can turn lessons into leadership. He can turn pain into compassion. He can turn your testimony into encouragement for someone who is walking through the same valley you once walked through. So today, I want you to stand up in faith again, apply again, build again, pray again, dream again, prepare again, believe again. Not because you know exactly what will happen, but because you know God is faithful. Psalm 27-14 says, wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. Waiting is not surrendering your future to inactivity. Waiting is refusing to abandon faith because the answer has not appeared according to your schedule. Father, heal every heart carrying the weight of rejection. Heal the person who has been overlooked. Heal the person who has been disappointed. Heal the person who feels forgotten. Restore their courage. Restore their expectation. Restore their ability to believe that tomorrow can be different from yesterday. Give them wisdom to recognize closed doors as protection when that is what they are. Give them perseverance when the right door requires continued effort. Give them discernment to know the difference between a door that needs persistence and a door that needs release. And as this Monday unfolds, may you discover that what looked like an ending was actually an intersection. May the closed door redirect you toward a better opportunity. May the rejection free you from an environment that could not contain your purpose. May the delay prepare you for responsibilities you were not yet ready to carry. May the disappointment deepen your dependence upon God. May you learn to say with confidence, if God closes it, I trust him. If God opens it, I will walk through it. If God delays it, I will wait. If God redirects me, I will follow. Before you make decisions today, stop and invite God into the process. There will be choices in front of you that may appear simple, but some decisions can have consequences far beyond the moment in which they are made. You may need to decide what opportunity to pursue, what conversation to have, what financial commitment to make, what relationship to strengthen, what boundary to establish, what responsibility to accept, or what situation to leave alone. This is why we need more than information. We need wisdom. James 1-5 says, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault. God does not shame you for asking. He does not become irritated because you do not know what to do. He invites you to ask. There is freedom in realizing that you do not have to carry the pressure of knowing everything. You can bring uncertainty to God. You can bring confusion to God. You can bring difficult decisions to God. You can say, Father, I do not know the way, but you do. Show me what I cannot see. Proverbs 3-5, 6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Your understanding is valuable, but it is limited. You see the present. God sees the future. You see the opportunity. God sees the consequences. You see the appearance. God sees the motive. You see what something could give you. God sees what it could cost you. This is why divine wisdom is essential. Wisdom helps you distinguish between what looks good and what is actually good for your assignment. Not every open door is a God door. Sometimes an open door is simply an opportunity, and an opportunity still needs discernment. You may receive an offer that looks attractive, but requires you to compromise your values. You may meet someone who seems impressive, but whose character does not match their words. You may be presented with a financial opportunity that promises quick results but carries hidden risk. You may be invited into something that increases your visibility but decreases your peace. Ask God for discernment before you say yes. Proverbs 14:12 says, there is a way that appears to be right, but in the end it leads to death. That verse should make us humble. Something can look right and still lead you in the wrong direction. Something can feel exciting and still be destructive. Something can be profitable and still be costly to your soul. Something can receive applause from people and still be outside God's purpose. This is why we test our decisions against Scripture. Character, wise counsel, prayer, and the fruit that the decision is likely to produce. Ask God for wisdom in your relationships. Who should have access to your heart? Who should have access to your time? Who should have access to your plans? Who should have access to your business? Not everyone who wants to be close to you is assigned to your future. Proverbs 13:20 says, walk with the wise and become wise. Your relationships can influence your decisions, your habits, your confidence, your priorities, and your spiritual direction. Choose relationships that strengthen your character rather than continually pulling you away from your values. Ask God for wisdom in your finances. Before you spend, invest, borrow, lend, or commit, pause. Proverbs 21:5 says, the plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. Wisdom does not despise opportunity, but wisdom refuses to be controlled by urgency. Someone telling you that you must decide immediately may be trying to prevent you from thinking clearly. Give yourself room to pray. Give yourself room to research. Give yourself room to seek wise counsel. Give yourself room to recognize whether an opportunity is truly worth pursuing. Ask God for wisdom in your communication. Some battles become bigger because of words spoken without restraint. Proverbs 15:1 says, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." You may be right and still need wisdom about how you express your position. You may have legitimate concerns, but the delivery can determine whether the conversation becomes productive or destructive. Ask God to govern your tongue. Psalm 141:3 says, "Set a guard over my mouth, Lord. Keep watch over the door of my lips." That is a prayer for every conversation you will have today. Wisdom also knows when to remain silent. Not every accusation requires an answer. Not every opinion requires a response. Not every criticism deserves your emotional energy. Jesus demonstrated restraint when facing accusations. There were moments when he answered and moments when he remained silent. Ask God for discernment concerning when to speak and when silence is the wiser response. Sometimes your peace is more valuable than proving a point. There will be moments when wisdom tells you to wait. Waiting can feel uncomfortable because we often confuse movement with progress. But moving quickly in the wrong direction is not progress. Psalm 27:14 says, "Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord." Waiting can protect you from making decisions under pressure. Waiting can allow emotions to settle. Waiting can give you time to gather information. Waiting can prepare you for the responsibility attached to the answer you are seeking. Do not make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. If you are angry, pause. If you are deeply discouraged, pray. If you are overly excited, examine the opportunity. If you are afraid, do not allow fear to make the decision. 2 Timothy 1-7 says that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. A sound mind is able to consider facts without being dominated by panic. A sound mind can listen without immediately reacting. A sound mind can recognize that one difficult moment does not determine an entire future. God can give you wisdom through Scripture. Psalm 119:105 says, "Your word is a lamp for my feet, a light on my path." Notice that a lamp does not necessarily illuminate the entire road at once. Sometimes God gives you enough light for the next step. You may want the whole plan, but God may give you the next instruction. You may want a 5-year blueprint, but God may say, take this step. Obedience to the next clear instruction can position you for the next revelation. God can also use wise counsel. Proverbs 11:14 says, "Victory is won through many advisors." But be careful who you allow to advise you. Not everyone who speaks confidently speaks wisely. Seek people whose lives demonstrate integrity, maturity, humility, and sound judgment. Do not ask someone for advice merely because you know they will tell you what you want to hear. Sometimes the person who loves you most is the person willing to tell you what you need to hear. Discernment also means learning to recognize patterns. Pay attention to repeated warning signs. Pay attention to character. Pay attention to fruit. Jesus said in Matthew 7:16, "By their fruit you will recognize them." Words can impress you, but fruit reveals character. Promises can sound beautiful, but consistency reveals truth. Someone can say they support you while repeatedly undermining you. Someone can speak about integrity while consistently compromising it. Ask God to help you look beyond appearances. Wisdom will also teach you how to say no. Your no protects your yes. You cannot give your time to everything, your money to everything, your energy to everything, and your attention to everything. If you do, you may have nothing left for the assignment God actually gave you. Jesus knew how to withdraw from crowds. Mark 1:35 tells us that he went to a solitary place early in the morning to pray. If Jesus made space for communion with the Father, you must also make room for prayer and reflection before allowing the demands of the day to consume you. Father, give us wisdom today. Give us wisdom in our homes. Give us wisdom in our work. Give us wisdom in our finances. Give us wisdom in our relationships. Give us wisdom in our conversations. Give us wisdom concerning opportunities. Give us wisdom concerning timing. Give us wisdom concerning the doors we should enter and the doors we should leave closed. Let us not be driven by fear, pressure, comparison, greed, pride, or impatience. Let us be governed by truth, discernment, humility, peace, and obedience. And when you reveal the way, give us courage to walk in it. Joshua 1-9 says, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." May courage rise when fear tells us to retreat. May faith rise when circumstances tell us to doubt. May wisdom rise when emotions tell us to react. May patience rise when urgency tells us to rush. May obedience rise when comfort tells us to remain where we are, so that every decision we make today becomes increasingly aligned with the purpose and direction of God. As you step into this Monday, I want you to believe that God is capable of arranging circumstances beyond your ability to arrange them. There are moments when you work hard and see gradual progress, and there are moments when divine alignment takes place and something suddenly shifts. A conversation happens at exactly the right time. A person remembers your name. An opportunity appears unexpectedly. A door opens in a place you never imagined. A solution arrives through a person you had never considered. These moments remind us that your life is not controlled only by what you can see and calculate. Psalm 37-23 says, "The Lord makes firm the steps of the one who delights in him." Your steps matter to God. Your movement matters. Your decisions matter. The environments you enter matter. The people you encounter matter. Ask God to establish your steps today. Do not merely ask him to bless wherever you decide to go. Ask him to lead you where he wants you to go. There is a difference between asking God to follow your plans and asking God to establish your path. Isaiah 45-2 says, "I will go before you and will level the mountains. I will break down gates of bronze and cut through bars of iron." God can go before you into places you have never entered. He can prepare what you cannot prepare. He can soften hearts you cannot soften. He can reveal information you did not have. He can remove obstacles you did not know were standing in your way. This is why prayer before the day begins is powerful. You are inviting God into the spaces you are about to enter. Perhaps you are believing for an open door in your career. Maybe you are looking for employment, praying for promotion, building a business, or hoping for a new opportunity. Do not underestimate what God can do through one connection. Ruth encountered Boaz at a field she entered while simply being faithful to provide for herself and Naomi. Ruth 2-3 says, "As it turned out, she was working in a field belonging to Boaz." What appeared to be an ordinary decision became a divine intersection. She did not know everything that would happen when she stepped into that field. This is why you must remain faithful in ordinary places. Sometimes we are waiting for a dramatic opportunity while neglecting today's responsibility. But the field you are in today may be preparing you for the room you have been praying to enter tomorrow. Colossians 3:23 says, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord." Excellence in an ordinary season can become preparation for extraordinary responsibility. But remember that divine alignment does not mean every opportunity will be accepted. Revelation 3-8 says, "I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut." When God opens a door, you do not need to manipulate people to keep it open. You do not need to compromise your integrity. You do not need to become dishonest. You do not need to destroy another person to maintain your position. What God establishes does not require you to violate his principles. There will also be doors that God closes. Do not assume every closed door is failure. Sometimes God closes a door because he knows what you cannot see. Paul experienced closed pathways in Acts 16 before receiving another direction. The closed door was not the end of his assignment. It was a redirection. So when something does not work, ask God whether he is redirecting you. Maybe the strategy needs to change. Maybe the timing needs to change. Maybe the environment needs to change. Maybe the entire direction needs to change. Proverbs 16-9 says, "In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." Make your plans, but keep your heart flexible. Prepare your application, but remain open to another opportunity. Build your business plan, but remain open to a better strategy. Prepare for the meeting, but remain open to a conversation you did not expect. Plan your future, but allow God to redirect the route. Divine alignment often involves people. There are people you have not met who may become significant in your future. There are mentors you have not encountered. There are clients who have not discovered your work. There are collaborators you have not met. There are relationships that may become important to your next season. You cannot force every connection. Some relationships are better when they emerge naturally through God's timing. Proverbs 18:16 says, "A gift opens the way and ushers the giver into the presence of the great." Your gift developed faithfully can create opportunities for influence. Do not become obsessed with being seen. Become committed to being prepared. David was anointed before he was publicly recognized as king. Joseph received dreams before he experienced the fulfillment. Esther entered a position before she understood the full purpose of her influence. God often prepares people privately before he positions them publicly. Your hidden season is not necessarily a wasted season. It may be the training ground for what you are asking God to release. Zechariah 4:10 asks, "Who dares despise the day of small things?" Do not despise small beginnings. The seed does not look like the tree. The first client may not look like the future business. The first opportunity may not resemble the ultimate vision. The first step may seem insignificant compared with the destination, but faithfulness compounds, skills develop, character matures, relationships grow, wisdom increases, capacity expands. What begins small can become significant when God establishes it. As you pray for open doors, pray also for capacity. Ask God to prepare you for what you are asking him to release. If you're asking for leadership, ask for character. If you're asking for wealth, ask for stewardship. If you are asking for influence, ask for humility. If you are asking for a larger platform, ask for greater responsibility. If you are asking for expansion, ask for wisdom. Luke 16:10 says, "Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much." Faithfulness now prepares you for greater responsibility later. There are people who want the harvest but have not prepared the field. They want the opportunity but have not developed the skill. They want the promotion but have not developed the character. They want influence but have not learned how to handle criticism. They want increase but have not learned stewardship. Do not make that mistake. While you are praying for the door, prepare for the room. While you are praying for the opportunity, develop your capacity. While you are believing for the breakthrough, strengthen the habits that will help you sustain it. I declare that God will sharpen your discernment today. May you recognize divine opportunities without being distracted by attractive distractions. May you know the difference between urgency and divine timing. May you know the difference between temptation and opportunity. May you know the difference between flattery and genuine support. May you know the difference between a relationship that expands your purpose and a relationship that consumes your purpose. May God give you eyes to see what he is doing and ears to hear what he is saying. Psalm 121:8 says, "The Lord will watch over your coming and going both now and forevermore." As you travel today, may God watch over you. As you enter your workplace, may he guide you. As you conduct business, may he protect your integrity. As you meet people, may he govern your words. As you make decisions, may he give you wisdom. As you encounter opportunities, may he give you discernment. As you return home, may his peace accompany you. If resistance appears today, do not automatically assume that the presence of resistance means the absence of God. Galatians 6-9 says, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap if we do not give up." Some doors require perseverance. Some opportunities require repeated effort. Some dreams require years of preparation. Do not abandon something simply because it has not happened quickly. At the same time, do not stubbornly force something God is redirecting. This is where discernment becomes essential. There is a time to persevere and a time to pivot. There is a time to knock and a time to move to another door. There is a time to wait and a time to act. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, "There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens." Your prayer today should therefore be, "Lord, teach me your timing." Timing can be just as important as opportunity. The right opportunity at the wrong time can become a burden. The right relationship at the wrong stage can become confusion. The right responsibility before you have capacity can become overwhelming. Father, go before every person listening today. Establish their steps. Prepare divine appointments. Open doors that align with your purpose. Close doors that would lead them away from your will. Bring the right people across their path. Give them courage to move when you say move and patience to wait when you say wait. Protect them from manipulation, deception, distraction, compromise, and unnecessary confusion. Let them recognize the opportunities that carry your grace And when the door opens, may they walk through it with humility. When the opportunity arrives, may they steward it with excellence. When the answer comes, may they remember the season when they had nothing but faith. When the promotion comes, may they remember the preparation. When the provision comes, may they remember the provider. When the influence comes, may they remember the purpose. When the door opens, may their first response be gratitude rather than pride. Psalm 115:1 says, "Not to us, Lord, not to us, but to your name be the glory." Let every open door become a testimony of God's faithfulness. Let every divine connection become an opportunity to serve. Let every increase become an opportunity to bless others. Let every new level bring greater responsibility rather than greater arrogance. Let this Monday be a day of alignment where your steps, decisions, relationships, opportunities, and priorities increasingly come into agreement with what God has prepared for you. And let your heart remain sensitive enough to recognize his leading when the next door begins to open.